Welcome to CSC Movie Recaps. I'm going to describe the movie Animal World today. Beware of spoilers. Kaisi feels sad since his 8th birthday. Kaisi imagines the people around him changing into the odd monsters from the program and feels a connection to the cartoon character Super Clown. Kaisi is a clown who works in an arcade. Kaisi notices his former classmate Lee Jun transforming into a monster while lounging around. Kaisi, dressed as a super clown, then runs into the metro after seeing a vision of men changing into dreadful creatures in a subway. Kaisi kicks one of the monsters out the window after slicing through them. He electrocutes a different monster by grabbing electrical cables from the ceiling. When others move closer, he electrocutes them. Lee Jun finally jolts him out of his reverie. According to Lee Jun, a wealthy condo owner is selling his 12 million yuan suite for half the price because he needs cash badly. Kaisi is asked to sell his apartment by Lee Jun since he already has 2 million yuan but needs 3 more. Since their only possession is the apartment, Kaisi declines. According to Lee Jun, reselling the suite would bring in millions of dollars and assist pay for Kaisi's medical expenses. Lee Jun insists that Kaisi needs money in order to marry her despite Kaisi's assertion that Liu Qing is assisting him. Lee Jun points out that Kaisi's candy box contains her photo despite Kaisi's insistence that they are not dating. Kaisi watches Liu Qing perform her nursing duties while he visits his mother in the hospital. He makes an attempt to win her over, but Liu Qing predicts that he would want to borrow money. Defeated, Kaisi acknowledges that his mother will be kicked out if he is unable to pay the bill. Soon after, a patient who is only calling to be touched calls Liu Qing. Liu Qing is aware of the patient's objective, yet she is compelled to comply due to her position. Liu Qing queries if he will be able to support her if she quits despite Kaisi's advice to do so. Kaisi is unable to respond, therefore Liu Qing must continue. When Kaisi becomes enraged and begins to beat the unsettling patient, it sparks a panic attack in another patient. Later, in the hallway, Kaisi discovers his mother. He approaches Chen, the chief nurse, to reprimand her but overhears her berating Liu Qing for making friends with him. According to Liu Qing, Kaisi used to be the smartest child in his class, but now he is only concerned about his mother. A doctor left Chen a bag in her locker, which Chen mentions to Liu Qing. Chen insists that Liu Qing should get to know the doctor despite the fact that she is not interested. Kaisi exits the room and remains in the corridor. Liu Qing offers Kaisi some money as she leaves, but Kaisi declines. But, Liu Qing places the cash on his table. In order to make room for more patients, they had to move his mother. The doctor handed her a designer bag, which Kaisi notices and tells her to marry the man. But she won't marry him, says Liu Qing. Liu Qing departs in tears. Kaisi calls Lee Jun and accepts the bargain. The apartment is sold the following day using his mother's fingerprint. Kaisi requests to read the contract, but Lee Jun informs her it is written in English. Kaisi and Liu Qing then observe with mistrust as Lee Jun hands the contract to a total stranger named Ando. Days later, Lee Jun leaves a frantic voicemail for Kaisi. Kaisi immediately goes into a panic and starts seeing things. When he arrives at Lee Jun's workplace, he learns that Lee Jun was sacked 2 months prior for stealing a client's down payment. Ando abruptly calls Kaisi from the outside. Kaisi receives an earpiece from Ando before meeting Anderson so that he can translate Anderson's statements. According to Anderson, Lee Jun used Kaisi's apartment as security to borrow 6 million yuan from them, which Lee Jun then lost at the casino. Now Kaisi still owes more than 8 million yuan even with his apartment. Anderson informs that Lee Jun had already been kidnapped and that the debt had been transferred to Kaisi. Kaisi accepts Anderson's invitation to join him on the cruise ship Destiny for a game. Kaisi can repay the loan and even make a lot of money if he performs well. Yet, there will be repercussions if he loses. Kaisi enrolls, thinking of Liu Qing and his mother, and Anderson wishes him success. Kaisi instructs Liu Qing to take care of his mother while he is abroad after returning to the hospital. Liu Qing worries that Lee Jun was responsible for his involvement with the mafia. Instead of responding, Kaisi advises her to unplug his mother's respirator and carry on with her life if he doesn't show up in a week. Kaisi then bids his mum farewell before departing. Afterwards, men gather Kaisi and the other participants in a parking area and administer anesthetic injections before escorting them inside a van. Kaisi fights back when she sees the clown again just before being injected. The men pursue him on motorcycles as he steals a vehicle. When they get to the tunnel, Kaisi rams a car into the side. The other driver fires a grappling hook, but Kaisai avoids it and pushes the car back while towing the motorcycle up against a neighboring truck. But the driver leaps, landing in the passenger seat. Kaisai pushes him out the door. Next, Kaisai exits the bridge and drives into a street. The driver tries to catch up with him, but Kaisai slams into him, launching the motorcycle into the air. These, however, are merely creations of Kaisai's imagination. In reality, Ando shoots Kaisai with a tranquilizer gun when he tries to flee. The participants are soon placed in cages and given a number to wear around their necks. They are already on the ship in the middle of the ocean. The players are eventually let go as a notice advises that using violence while playing the games is prohibited. They make their way into the main room, where Anderson introduces the game. 12 cards that depict rock, paper, and scissors are given to the participants along with 3 stars. Rock, paper, scissors will be played by the participants using the cards, and the loser will receive 1 less star. The winner is the player who has used all of their cards while still holding 3 stars. If a player has less than 3 stars or has cards in their hands at the end of the 4-hour period, they are out. A player is immediately eliminated and their cards are destroyed if they lose all of their stars. Anderson cautions that elimination would bring death, but if they survive, their loan will be paid off. 1 new loan can be made by each player during the course of the game, and the interest rate will rise every minute. Also, they are free to trade cards and stars with one another. Anderson extends a warm welcome to Animal World. Kaisai observes as players from all over the world start to play. After being defeated by player number 29, 1 is already out. Kaisai is introduced to Jinkuan, who also points out the nearby cameras. He implies that wealthy men are betting on them. Jinkuan suggests a strategy after pointing out that he and other players have already been there. Everyone can keep their stars while using all of their cards because no one will lose them if they play their cards in draws. Kaisai is shown his cards by Jinkuan, who instructs him to arrange them in the same order and meet him at a table to play. Hesitations aside, Kaisai engages in play with him. Each match ends in a draw, but after several rounds, Jinkuan wins against one of Kaisai's. Jinkuan apologizes, saying he made a mistake. To get his star back, he vows to let him win the following round. Jinkuan displays to Kaisai that he is laying down a scissors card as proof. Kaisai plays a rock card, but he loses since Jinkuan's card is a paper, much to his horror. The 2 cards put together by Jinkuan were switched at the last minute, he says. He is accused of cheating by Kaisai, but the guards award Jinkuan his star. He is reminded by Jinkuan that Anderson has never prohibited cheating. When Kaisai starts having new hallucinations, he leaves the room and finds the other participants waiting outside. When he opens the door once more, he is abruptly propelled into space and then falls into the water, which freezes. Lee Jun finally awakens him. Next, Kaisai beats him, but the guards restrain him. Lee Jun later admits that he played the game to reclaim Kaisai's residence. With less than 2 hours left and each player only having 1 star, Kaisai devises a strategy, but they require a player with 2 stars and no cards. They go up to Meng, who is wary of them. Meng abruptly takes the paper card and dashes to a table when he notices that Kaisai has 4 scissors and 1 paper card. Meng plays, but he loses. Lee Jun defeats Meng in the restroom, but Meng argues that he believed they were fooling him since people would keep their cards balanced, making Kaisai an easy mark with mostly scissors. Kaisai recognizes this and surmises that the majority of players would initially play one of each card kind before switching up their strategy. He instructs his squad to look for a player who has 9 cards left, and asks them to let him know if he employs rock and scissors during the following 2 rounds. Kaisai lends $500,000 in the meanwhile to acquire a backup star in case they lose. Meng discovers their objective quickly, but Kaisai determines they don't have enough time to buy an extra star because they are running out of cards. Leaving his fate to chance, Kaisai takes on the player and defeats his paper card. Kaisai challenges the player to another round after earning his 2nd star and displaying his remaining 3 cards. Only if he plays all 3 rounds with his remaining cards does the opponent agree. After losing the following round, the team recommends Kaisai not to carry on. Yet Kaisai notes that the challenge was only accepted when the opponent saw his 3 remaining cards. This implies that he believes Kaisai still holds one of each kind of card. The opponent plays 2 paper cards after Kaisai has played a scissor card because he believes Kaisai still has a rock and a paper remaining. He is defeated by Kaisai's remaining scissor cards and the team earns a total of 5 stars. Anderson shoots a cheater who attempted to flush his cards down the toilet when he is suddenly caught. As the majority of the remaining players have fewer than 3 stars and cannot purchase more stars, Kaisai advises purchasing rock cards since paper cards are more frequently used. There won't likely be any more paper cards left by the time the game is over, therefore rocks will triumph over scissors. The squad offers to take the remaining cards of players with 3 stars in order to conceal their plan from others. The 3-starred players then purchase rock cards from other players using the lent funds from the team. Lee Jun queries what transpired on Kaisai's 8th birthday as she waits for the paper cards to run out. Gangsters entered their house abruptly and led Kaisai to the living room. While they attacked his father and mother, they played the Super Clown performance to cover up the noise. The Super Clown became impregnated in his brain as a result of this. Soon after, Meng declares that there are less scissor cards. Kaisai understands that someone else came up with the identical plan. Lee Jun and Meng hastily decide to play. Players challenge them, costing them 1 star apiece, bringing their team back to 1 star each. The same group of players will soon approach them with their leader, Luca. Luca discovered their strategy. If they play 1 game, Luca will sell them a star. Luca refuses to buy more stars despite Kaisai's insistence. Luca reveals that he has an extra card, thus they only need to play 1 round to win. Kaisai wagered their 3 stars in exchange for Luca's team stars. In exchange for their 3 stars and the money left, Luca agrees. Kaisai imagines Luca transforming into a monster. Suddenly, Luca pauses, but the referee forbids him from switching his card. This supports Kaisai's claim that Luca's team is preparing to play one another so they can use their cards in draws. Luca assumes Kaisai only has rock cards because they have an odd number of cards and must use the extra one. The game is won by Kaisai since his card was scissors, giving their team a total of 4 stars. Eventually, Kaisai admits that he purchased the teammates' cards for Luca. Luca is instructed by Kaisai to give him $100,000 in order for him to accept his cards. If not, Kaisai will reveal what cards Luca has since his comrades told him. Jinkuan mocks Kaisai after receiving the cards by saying that his strategy will fail. In exchange for turning on his friends and 5 certain cards, he promises Kaisai an additional star, but Kaisai declines. While waiting for 2 more paper cards to be eliminated, Kaisai calculates the number of cards the other players still have. Jinkuan abruptly calls everyone's attention. Since there aren't many cards remaining, he advises them to reshuffle all of the cards. He demonstrates this by properly predicting the cards that certain players still possess. The other players handed over their cards. They come to the conclusion that someone is hoarding their cards and is unwilling to shuffle them. Jinkuan advises playing only among individuals who consented to reshuffle their cards. Kaisai is forced to give up his cards. 3 scissors cards are still missing, according to Jinkuan, but nobody turns them in. All of the cards are dealt to the players after being shuffled by Jinkuan. He throws Kaisai's into the air rather than handing them to him. As they see Jinkuan attempting to get a player to play, Kaisai steps in and offers the player 2 stars if he defeats Jinkuan. Jinkuan notes that Kaisai can determine which card the player possesses. Kaisai assumes that Jinkuan is aware that he has all the paper cards. Kaisai believes Jinkuan proposed shuffling the deck in order to obtain the cards he desired. He marked his targets by stocking up on rock cards and giving scissor cards solely to individuals who had 1 card left. Kaisai accuses him of marking the cards in order to achieve this. The scissors cards have a dented corner, as one player checks. Kaisai dares to play blindly by allowing his opponent to choose which card Kaisai plays in an effort to even the odds. Kaisai loses in the following round, which worries his teammates. The players who didn't take part in the shuffle are confronted by Jinkuan, who accuses them of concealing the missing scissors cards. He is reminded of the player who flushed his cards by Kaisai, who points out that he must have done it with 3 scissors cards because the counter missed it. Kaisai admits that he played carelessly. Now, Jinkuan can only play against him. In the final 2.5 seconds, Kaisai persuades Jinkuan to wager 5 stars. After the blind games, Kaisai observes that they have an adequate number of cards to play each other in draws. They run the risk of having a card that cannot be played if they take on Jinkuan, so one of them will have to go, and Kaisai offers to do it. Jinkuan lays down his card, but Kaisai has him slap himself and repent for deceiving everyone. In the final few seconds, Jinkuan agrees. When Kaisai finally sets down his card, Jinkuan's stars are 1, giving his side a total of 10 stars. Kaisai is still disqualified despite holding 1 more card. Kaisai is tossed into the other room. They can see the main hall from there. An elderly man claims that number 29 deceived him into going into the dark room so he could use the window to see his opponent's cards and give him cues to win. With enough stars, number 29 claimed he could save him, but he then fled. As all the players are gathered, Anderson opens the window to the Black Room. Anderson grants Lee Jun's request to utilize his stars to save Kaisi. He enables players without cards but with less than 3 stars to purchase items from those who have more stars in order to escape the Black Room. Individuals who sell their stars can then use the proceeds to settle their debts and walk away with any extra cash. Anderson grants Lee Jun's request to utilize his stars to save Kaisi. Players attempt to purchase Lee Jun's extra stars, but he is adamant about rescuing Kaisi. Nevertheless, when the other players encircle them, he is forced to trade 1 star for $500,000 in order to escape. The guard accepts Lee Jun's offer of 3 extra stars, but Meng abruptly takes them. He points out that the 3 stars will bring them millions of dollars, and they still owe money for loan interest. After feeling guilty, Lee Jun apologizes to Kaisi and vows to look after his mother in his place. Then he departs to go after Meng. A scarred athlete is rescued by his teammates, who observe that he borrowed their money to make sure of his survival. The player is attacked by Kaisi until a guard tackles him. Kaisi recalls that the 3 stars that saved the other player were worth more than the money he was carrying, indicating that the old guy was probably carrying something more important. He grabbed the bandage when he struck the man after noticing it on his back. As soon as the man discovers this, Kaisi displays the bandage covered in diamonds to him. As a result, his teammates are forced to save Kaisi. The elderly guy requests that he send a message to his sick son as he departs. Kaisi doesn't react. Kaisi makes the decision not to change into an animal like the others following the fight and treachery. He would much rather fight for himself as a clown. He assaults Meng as soon as he enters the room, then he steals the cash and the stars. In addition, he steals the cash from a humiliated Lee Jun and uses the stars to set the elderly man free so he may go back to his son. Anderson observes this with interest. Kaisi soon makes his way back to Luqing and his regular life. But one day he sees Ando standing outside his mother's ward. The same whistling from the night his parents were attacked can be heard as the man pursues him into an empty room. When he looks around, he sees that Anderson was the one who killed his dad.